Hi, this is Tom Payne, otherwise known as Jesus from The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through.
Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilger. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending you all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Cassie McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hello and welcome to this episode of The Walking Dead Talk Through. I believe it's episode 103. I'm Brian.
And I'm Mark.
Yeah, it's 103. I had to look at, I wasn't looking at the notes when I said that. Anyway, we are going to discuss season 10, episode 4 of The Walking Dead, titled Silence the Whispers. Or is it Silence the Whisperers? This controversy will come up in this episode, of course.
There's a conspiracy out there. You hear what I'm saying? There's a conspiracy. A C-O-N conspiracy.
Who am I kidding? It's not much of a conspiracy, but we'll get to that later. All right. So we have just a little tiny bit of feedback for last week's episode, season 10, episode 3, Ghosts, Simon and Rick.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
Megan from Pennsylvania, and we hear from her with the voicemail this week. She responded when we posted the episode on Facebook. She said, okay, when Brian said, it's just the word bitch. That was hilarious delivery. And you need to clip that out and make it a regular sound clip played on the podcast. And we will, but I didn't have time to look it up. So to grab it. But maybe Kyle, who's been editing for us this season, even though he hasn't been on, he could look it up. I don't know. So maybe insert it here, Kyle. It's just the word bitch. All right. So didn't take us too long to get to the main event. Season 10, episode 4, titled Silence the Whisperers. Written by staff writer, now story editor for season 10, Geraldine Inoa. And this is her third turnaround writing Walking Dead. She also wrote season 9, episode 4, which was like the penultimate episode of Rick before he left the show, The Obliged. And I was surprised when I looked it up just before we started recording. She co-wrote one of the standout episodes last season, season 9, episode 15, The Calm Before, and with Channing Powell, who was a co-executive producer for several years on The Walking Dead, but she turned to, I can't remember the name of it, but she was show running a show on Amazon. And so like last year, she was a consulting producer, but she is no longer in the credits in this season. So anyway, but yeah, so she co-wrote The Calm Before. And of course, if you don't recognize that, that's of course the episode where Alpha did her bidding. And, you know, it was the last episode of Henry before he
before the head's on a stick.
Yes. Yes. Shish kebabs. Anyway, that's just gross. More like... That one's too long to play the whole thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so this is her third episode written, and it's directed by Michael Cudlitz, and you may know him. Who's Deanna? Anyway, and this is his second time directing the Walking Dead. I was going to check this. I didn't have a chance to check this. Did he direct any of Fear last season or not? No. So he's only directed
Walking Dead, and then he is doing the new series. He's doing 3 episodes of the new series so far.
Yes, that's what we have heard.
He stated that at Walker Stalker.
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking he directed an episode of Fear this season, but he did not. I just confirmed what you just said by looking it up on the favorite website of mine for many, many years now, Wikipedia.
Not Google.
I spend way too much time on Wikipedia. Anyway, the description is still paranoid Alexandrians get riled up over the Whisperers and take their fear out on Negan. At Hilltop, the group deals with an unexpected safety issue. That's a weird thing to call it, though. An unexpected safety issue?
Yeah, a tree falling on your house.
Yeah. That's a little bit of natural disaster.
I would say that.
Yeah. All right. Mark, what did you think of this episode?
Well, I rated it 9 out of 10 free the Negan.
And I'm going to give this episode 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 earworms out of 10. I had to practice that on this very special episode of Grey's Anatomy. And I had to, it was that song. I'll have a lot more to say about that song as we go, but it is an interesting choice. I wonder if they chose it because of the whisper of 1, 2, 3.
Probably. And the lyric content. Mostly.
And the lyric content, definitely. The lyrics are appropriate. So what the hell does that tell you about my rating? Okay. So I also gave it a more intelligible 8.5 Whisperer Reigns of Terror, or maybe Whispering Bullies. So 8.5. All right. So let's move on to our listener ratings.
Well, Steve from Oklahoma City gives it 9 out of 10. If a tree falls at Hilltop and no one is there to see it, do they know in Alexandria?
I don't think so. Dieta from Detroit gives it 9 out of 10 squirrels. It's what's for dinner. And she has laughing, crying face. Looks like laughing, throw up face or something.
Yeah.
Green face. So sick face.
Sick face, yeah.
And
happy,
just overall
smiley
happy
emoji.
face.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that chorus, Dieta.
Definitely. Glennis from Toronto says, 8 out of 10, nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I think I'll go eat worms.
LT from NC says, I'm giving this one 9 out of 10. Unleash the Negans. I see a pattern.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Awesome Sauce.
Steve from Oklahoma City says, Judith fighting side by side with Michonne.
Dieta from Detroit has 2. She says, Judith and Michonne, samurai sword, slicing and dicing in sync. Loved it. I did too. And her second one is also Michonne related. Michonne and King Ezekiel riding in to join the fight at the Hilltop.
Glennis from Toronto says, the fight scene in front of the Hilltop's open gate done in one film capture shot, and that motorcycle gear weapon of Luke's, the bow and arrows of Yumiko, and slingshot of Kelly and Connie's, they're getting to be the superheroes of The Walking Dead. I do agree.
All right. What about your awesome Sasai?
Well, for me, it was more of a personal one. The first one I should give, that would be seeing the water tower inside of it's just outside of Hilltop's gates. I saw that same water tower in Sonoy last year while on the tour, as well as being dropped off right in front of that particular water tower.
Oh.
By the bus. That is right near the Alexandria filming location. So I'm thinking the section, because I've never been inside, the Alexandria filming location is probably cut in half and part of it is Hilltop. So that I thought was pretty awesome because it was something familiar to me because I was there. The fight at the Hilltop with the Zeds. I love the camera work and how it flowed around the scene itself like just one full long shot. And Cudlitz talks about that on Talking Dead.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I thought he did a good job with that.
Yep. Next part will be Lydia, the cutting of the squirrel in front of those people. And I question people that attacked her. I was going to say kids, but that highwayman lady was not a kid. And there's more in my what sauce about her.
Yeah, 2 of them were adults. One of them was a teenager. And, the teenager who was the tallest of the 3 was Gage. And I have that in my notes, but since I'm bringing it up now, Gage was actually that shit disturber at Hilltop who was causing a lot of trouble with Henry.
Yep.
That's the same guy. And it was Rodney that died, that, got the heads on the pike. But Gage, I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to get an even worse death. Because either that or he's going to have to live with himself in a bad way. So I don't know. Don't like that kid. Never will.
Nah. Then that last part I have would be Michael Cudlitz's direction. I thought it was great in this episode. The filming and the scenes, plus the angles that the actors were in every shot were really brilliant in the way he did it.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple of 4, actually it's like 2.5 for Negan. First of all, Negan defending Lydia. And I gotta say that was a rough scene to watch. There was a moment there where I thought there was going to be a rape, which if Margot had been there and it had gone to that would have been, well, there's, what I'm, it
would have been too far. I think.
Would have, yeah. Well, it would have been too far anyway. But you know what I mean. It's it crosses
a huge line, and on top of that, they were beating up on a young girl,
right?
At this point, too. I agree.
But I don't know. There was a moment there where Gage he looked like he was going to jump on top of her. And,
it did look like rustling around, and he was on top of her and moving. Yeah. To me, it's like no, don't do that, don't go. And then of course Negan comes to save the day. So just in time.
So I thought that was great, and then I have to then add that Negan escapes. Because I have a feeling he's going to be out for revenge, but it's not against the Alexandrians. It's going to be against the Whisperers. He's going to do. He's like the kind of character that you send in to do the dirty work. He's the Section 31 of so to speak. And if you don't get that,
Or it's like the Doctor from Lost in Space towards the end of that series. The beginning, he was evil, and then he turns good, and he's doing all weird things.
Yeah. Well, anyway, my point being that Negan, I think I figured him out, at least to an extent. Like, he's certainly got this narcissistic, sadistic side. You could call him sociopathic, although I don't know what the hell he is. But he's thing is,
narcissist.
He's good with kids. Okay. And he protects the people that he, is the people he thinks are worthy of protection.
Yeah.
So, like, we've seen him do it with Judith, and now he's doing it with Lydia.
Well, he did it with Aaron. He saved Aaron.
Yeah, he did it with Aaron too. So I like this part of him, and now that he's out, I have to feel that he's going to end up eventually getting to the Whisperers. Although I have seen, a couple of scenes. Like, I haven't watched the opening minutes yet of the next episode, but I have seen a couple of like sneak peeks in that, and there's. And from the description, it sounds like it might go a little different direction than I thought next episode. but anyway, I really liked. I guess I'll bring up what I've got as my third awesome sauce. I'm sorry, as my fourth awesome sauce third, and that is Daddy Daryl. So we see like both Negan and Daryl kind of parenting or mentoring or watching over
or my two dads.
That's funny. Anyway, so I kind of liked Daryl in that role. We've seen it before. We saw it some last season, but the last thing I will say, and it is related again to Lydia, Michonne realizes Alpha's Achilles heel. And I don't know why I didn't think of this last week, and I should have, that it is Alpha sending these walkers. So like last week's walkers, she is sending them. It was wrong to say that she wasn't sending them. Yeah. Here's the caveat, like from what Lydia said last week when they asked, is it your mother? And Lydia said that if she wanted them dead, she would send the whole flock of whatever you want to call them, the whole herd.
Yeah.
And the reason why she doesn't send the whole herd is it's because of Lydia. She doesn't want to kill them. She definitely wants to, dominate, but she wants to keep them off their, on their toes or, off balance. But she's not going to go at them full force because of Lydia. And it's like when she said that, I was like, oh my God, you're so right. So I thought that was really good, intuitive reaction, a conclusion that she made, because she definitely, that completely explains what we're seeing with Alpha. It is, and I think it will be her downfall. I think that especially once the rest of the Whisperers find out that Lydia's alive, I have to think that there's going to be some dissonance within the Whisperers.
Oh, definitely.
All right, so let's move on to weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
We only have 2 from listeners.
Yeah, Steve from Oklahoma City says, Michonne and Daryl discussing Lydia over the radio. I snorted when she said to keep it just between them. You're on radio.
Yeah, that's. Although I don't see her Alpha, the Whisperers, having the radio. So
yeah, you could see them with a ham radio in that little camp that they got.
Steve, you're still thinking of fear. Stop it. And if you don't watch Fear, there was a lot of walkie-talkie action in Fear. So, season 5. Glynis from Toronto says an episode that was too dark in places, especially at the hilltop with the felled tree. The full moon was shown in the fight scene, so use it. I didn't notice this as much as I probably could have, because I was not, like, most of the time when I watched this episode, I was watching it on my phone. But I watched it, like, the last time I watched it on my computer. So I was able to pick up some stuff. But yeah, I did kind of notice it was kind of dark and dull, which is kind of long-standing issue with the show. All right, Mark, what do you have?
Well, even though we see more of Yumiko and Magda together, I found it weak that they have not given us anything of this relationship before. Just makes me think that they gave us these few scenes within this episode to only have one of them being gone in another episode later on.
And you had another one?
Yeah, Negan's redemption was cut short to be hated again and people wanting him to be dead. I'm hoping it will come back in some way in a later episode, like in the comic book.
Well, you and I talked about this one on Sunday night. Is something that I picked up on, and actually I talked a little bit about it with Jason from the Walking Dead cast. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't agree, but oh well, that's why I podcast. And even though I've been a devout listener of their podcast for 8 or 9 years, I have my own podcast because I don't always agree with them. Yeah. So anyway, the door said silence the whispers, not silence the whisperers. Mm-hmm. And I noticed this and we talked about it. And like you said, I'll let you say what you said to me. You don't remember what you said to me.
I don't remember what I said to you.
You said something about that's somebody's job.
What, to silence them?
No. Oh my God. It's funny. No, you said that somebody on the show's staff should get fired for that.
Oh yeah. Now I remember. Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
But yeah, definitely. But my thought on that was that maybe it was the whispers and maybe Sadiq's head.
Well, see, here's the thing. Like, when I first saw that, I reacted to it kind of strongly. And then I started looking at it more, and in the credits, there is a graphic where it shows silence the whispers, not whisperers, in the on one of the walls, and you can look at it. I thought it was the same writing, but now looking at it, the H is different, although it's very similar. It's not quite the same things, but it looks like the same writer. So it's actually very close.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but
looking at it,
yeah. But there's also the very last shot of the episode. There is like what is that? It's like the greenhouse or the barn, like it's around where the crops are in Alexandria. There's also
it was like a newly built house. It looks like to me.
Yeah,
because it's all wood.
Well, there it's painted "Silence of Whispers."
Yeah,
yeah. So I wonder if the title of this episode was going to be "Silence the Whispers" and they changed it, because I don't understand why they would change it. Now, what Jason said when I talked to him, he thought, well, that's more appropriate to Lydia. I'm like, okay. I don't agree with you, but okay. So, that anyway, I thought it was odd. So I initially had a pretty like strong reaction to it, but upon reflection and seeing how they made it consistent, I wonder if the problem is the title and maybe for some reason they changed it, so that this originally was going to, like, if you like saw the, the, what do they call those action things where they go action and they click the thing?
The clapboard? I
can't remember what. Yeah, the clapboard. I wonder if we saw a clapboard, if it would say silence the whisperers on it, not silence the whisperers.
That's something I asked Michael Cudlitz.
Yeah.
So if any of you out there go to a con and you see Michael Cudlitz, ask him and let us know.
Anyway, there was an unnecessary line that was in Act 1. It was like right after the tree falls. And somebody said, I think it was Jerry said it. 9 people, and that was our people or something like that. I'm like, that's like, of course it's your people. Like, why do you even have to say that? This is dumb.
Who else was there? Maybe a whisperer?
Yeah. Not showing the thud of Margot's head. I thought that kind of came out of nowhere, and it was kind of confusing to me at first.
Here, all you saw was the head on the side of that building.
Yeah. So I'm like, what the hell? This is like borderline what sauce. And I had another weak sauce, but it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That damn song. We talked about it a little bit on before we started recording, and that I will talk a little bit more about it, but it was so like I posted about this on Facebook a few times in a few different places, and I couldn't get the damn thing out of my head. It was like the whole episode I heard 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
And we all thought he was going crazy.
Yeah. And until people heard it again, and then they figured out what I was talking about. But literally, it was like the very first thing in the cold open. Like before anybody says anything or even the music comes on, it's you hear that whispering. I'll talk more about the song, but it was I've grown to almost like the song, which proves to me that it's an earworm. This is this season's Easy Street.
Yeah.
It definitely is this season's Easy Street. So, it's one of those things. I can't unhear it. It was an interesting choice. I know some people really liked it. I wasn't one of them. But strangely enough, I've listened to the song a few times outside of the episode just because I was so curious about it that I needed to understand it better. So, all right. What sauce?
What?
We only got one group of what sauce, but it was from Dieta from Detroit. She had a couple. She says, okay, why are Connie and Kelly using slingshots to kill walkers still? They are standing on a car using slingshots to take down walkers. What? I'll just say.
What?
Clearly, it's time to upgrade their weapons. Meanwhile, Magna, Yumiko, and Luke are actually fighting the walkers with real weapons. Luke has the best one. Yeah, and I saw, was it on Talking Dead? He talked about it. It's an actual mace made of motorcycle parts,
Yep.
which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't put that in my awesome sauce because it wasn't clear to me that it was motorcycle parts, but now knowing that, I think it's cool. She also says, Negan and Lydia are becoming besties. I think it's cool how they can relate to each other as the outsiders. Who let Negan out of jail this time? We know it wasn't Gabriel. He made that clear on The Talking Dead. Smiley face, kind of rolling over, crying, smiley face, and smiley face, all rolling over, laughing. The question I had was, is Negan still staying in the cell, or did they put him there after the incident? I'm just saying, how secure is this jail if Negan escapes twice? How many people have keys? Although you never see anyone lock it ever, but yet somehow Lydia feels safe there. It looks like Daryl just shuts it and walks away, but if someone wanted to get to Lydia, they could just walk in, shoulder shrug, and 2 shrugging emojis. I think Negan has actually graduated from the cell. He was probably in a halfway house of sorts within Alexandria, since it seems that guards are watching him regularly when he's out in the public. I think, and he talks about this to Lydia, Daryl mentions, that I think Lydia doesn't know about Negan completely, doesn't know that, he escaped the first time. So I also think that with Lydia in the jail cell, it makes her more difficult for people to get to her. So in her case, it certainly seems logical to me that she would feel safe there. I know if people were out to get me, I would probably feel safe there, so.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Mark, what is your what sauce? Multiple.
Well, you've been talking about it for a while, but what is with that pop song throughout the whole episode? Is this One Tree Hill?
It's Grey's Anatomy. Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that.
Oh, definitely. That's why I just left it at that. My last bit would be, what is with the lady highwayman doing with the younger guys in Hilltop? She looks anywhere near their age. She looks like she's in her 40s, but she's hanging around like a little kid with these guys.
Yeah. So Gage isn't a highwayman. Mentioned that. The other character, his name, that other highwayman, is named Alfred. So
interesting.
Yeah, but he's obviously older, but they're definitely not as.
Yeah, I would assume he's like
Marco.
20s, and she looked way older though.
Yeah, I would say she was probably mid 40s or something like that, and he's probably like late 20s, and of course Gage is, a rebellious teenager
which is funny too, because if you look at her on Talking Dead, they mentioned that the girl who played, what was the little psycho girl that was in that episode with Michonne and Daryl with the kids that attacked them and put the X's on them? The little Bond girl. That was her daughter in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It was on Talking Dead, and it was like one of those questions that come up that they give information off about the episode.
Right. I missed that part. Yeah, and scars.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't notice this. I mentioned this. It's funny that I'm looking it up on Wikipedia, and in the credits, I didn't even see him in that episode. Scott was in that episode, so that's one point I was about to make. I thought Scott was dead, but apparently he was in Scars. So and that was post Rick, and post the time jump. So I didn't realize he was still alive, but he was. So Not just in this episode, but episode 14 last year. I was looking to see if that actress was listed in Wikipedia, but they're not. So just Jocelyn was. Rutina Wesley was her name. All right. My turn now, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Yumiko was Magna's lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
That was surprising. Is that I know these are characters from the comic book. Is she Magna's lawyer in the comic book?
From what I remember, yeah.
Why did Magna react that way when Yumiko wanted to retreat? And that's when we find out later that she was Magna's lawyer. Like, sometimes Magna's reactions to things are odd.
Yeah.
The scene when the tree fell in Hilltop, I found it confusing. In an earlier season, I think we would have seen it fall, but that shot was a bit confusing and didn't work for me. But I heard an explanation for that and more on that later. And I also found that the Michonne Ezekiel scene was a bit confusing and awkward for me. And I don't mean the kiss or the after kiss. I mean, like, exactly why did Michonne kind of get separated or like leave herself behind?
Leave the group.
Yeah. I didn't understand that. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And where were they? And how did Ezekiel leave with all that stuff going on at Hilltop? It didn't make a lot of sense to me.
No.
So that's why I found it confusing. And then the last bit of wet sauce is the squirrel. I found that whole thing was just so strange and it was a weird thing for her to do, but I didn't get where did she get the squirrel?
She got it from Daryl. He keeps it in his pantry.
Okay. And anyway, the whole thing, that was a bit odd. So, all right. Sad / ah sauce.
Aww. Well, Steve from Oklahoma City says, cute sauce. Judith's, I am, before Michonne called her a pair of friendly ears.
Yeah, I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Judith, Callie, is it Callie?
Kaylee Fleming.
Kaylee. Yeah.
Yeah. My niece still doesn't understand. My niece is 14 and she goes, she's so small and she's almost 13. I don't understand it. I said, kid, you're almost 6 foot tall and you're 14. Yeah, I said, there's people that grow small. Look at your sister. Her sister is my other niece. Her older sister is like 4'11".
Yeah.
So she's still growing, but
And for that matter, Kaylee may get a growth spurt still. So,
yeah.
I mean, a lot of kids, don't start growing until later. Like,
exactly.
They'll get a growth spurt. So,
or maybe
knows?
they're stunting her growth because of Carl, and everybody kept saying he was getting older.
Well, and stunting is her growth. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Carl, there was, a couple of seasons there where he just like shot up like a weed.
Oh yeah.
Between probably like season 4 and 5, he just like really probably grew like 4 inches in between the seasons.
Deepened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Dad. Come on, Dad. Anyway, Dieta from Detroit has a couple. First, her sauce, Michonne and Judith, this whole episode. Now, if we can only get RJ to join the ranks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's a little too young to be a warrior, but yeah. Chip off the old block, I think, Judith. Sad, she says, Ezekiel losing himself after losing the kingdom. Henry's big brother, Henry, then Carol. He just wants to give up. Sad crying face. They need to get with Calamity Jane in Fear the Walking Dead. Didn't she have a therapist at one of her communities? Yes, in fact, she did. Yeah, we need a therapist. We've never had a therapist on the regular show. I would think that there would be a value to some therapy, especially Sadiq, which you would think as a doctor, Sadiq could kind of have some psychological training or psychiatry training at some point, but it doesn't seem like he did. He did not take that up in residency or an intern. So he's going through some stuff. All right, Mark, what do you have?
Well, that would be King Ezekiel. Is he possibly sick, and that is why he is so sad? I know he is probably a little bit more sad due to Carol not being there for him, but I really do think that there is really something wrong with him, and he might be dying.
I did catch the coughing, so that's possible.
And him being dazed and just out and zoning out. That to me is like, that there's something going on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he could probably use an ultrasound machine. If you don't get that one, Fear the Walking Dead Season 5. Thank you very much. I have to give two sad sauces here. First is, since you mentioned Ezekiel, I'll bring up the second one first, and that is Michonne talking about Rick with Ezekiel. And, that always chokes me up a little bit. It didn't choke me up as much as it used to, so maybe I'm kind of getting over Rick a little bit. I don't know. That kind of scares me because he's my man. He's my character. Anyway, so, but I always like whenever they bring up, but both Ezekiel and Michonne have gone through a lot of grief. She, of course, lost Carl. She lost Rick. She lost her, boyfriend initially and son. In early part of the apocalypse, lost Andrea, who she was close to. So she's lost a lot of people close to her. So, and of course, we just heard all the people that Ezekiel has lost, and he's definitely lost a lot as well. And of course, lost Shiva. Can't forget about Shiva. All right, so we've got some feedback, quite a bit. Here we go.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
We've got 2 voicemails this week. Yay! So our first is from our good friend Steve.
Hello, Walking Dead Talk Through. This is Steve, and some notes for Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 4. I got a little confused, this switching back and forth between Alexandria and the hilltop. It took me a second. I don't know why. I mean, I realized 2 completely different locations and 2 different things going on, but every time it took me a second or 2 to realize, oh, wait, we're back at Alexandria now. Oh, no, we're at Hilltop now. So that was a little confusing for me. And I don't know how I feel about this storyline, this plot with the bullies and stuff. Because we have 3 grown adults beating up on a teenage girl who we don't know exactly how old she is, maybe 14, 15, maybe 16, I guess. And we just don't know how old Lydia is. And it's like they're all suddenly, everybody's taking their side of it. And even though you can tell from the interrogation that Gabriel knows that they're lying and Daryl knows that they're lying, but yet I guess there's enough people that don't know that they're lying that they can form a lynch mob. to take out Negan, that just it was a little confusing there. And that whole nighttime council meeting that they were doing, Gabriel called it right. He said, "I'm going to clear my head. I'm going to get out." And it just seemed like Aaron and those that were against Negan weren't really, even though they knew what he did that night was the right thing, they were using it as an excuse to, kill him or whatever they were going to do to him. So, I don't know where that plot is going to go going forward. I don't know if we're going to see more of it if Negan comes back or when Negan comes back. But, yeah, that's what I got. So talk to you later.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. As usual, you get a Showcase Award for your excellent feedback. Well, a few things that he mentioned. I wrote down some notes. Switching back and forth. I don't know. I didn't have that much of a problem with it, but what about you, Mark?
I have
no
comment on it.
The point of bullies in the plot, I think, is worth discussing. Of course, we have the usual bully of Alpha, in the current bully, I guess you could say, but we see the former bully, who's still a bully, I think, but is kind of on the other side of things right now, Negan. And then we have the bullies that are bullying Lydia, namely Gage, Margot, and Alfred. And, you mentioned that you didn't really know how you felt about the bullies or how it was effective. I don't know. I tend to think that Alpha is definitely a bully, so it works for me. What about you, Mark?
Oh, she definitely is. It's her trying to come in and push in and get what she wants. This is mine. You can't do whatever. You're going to pay me a price kind of attitude. But with Lydia's retaliation, I like that, though. The fact that, she got the squirrel out, cut it right in front of them, scare them. That's something I would do.
Although it kind of backfired.
Yeah.
Because they retaliated. And of course, what you were just describing there, that sounds exactly like Negan in season 7, like the half becomes half is what I say is half.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very similar. And of course, he was definitely a bully then. I also took note of the clear my head and how Gabriel was probably the most rational of that council group. And that they were definitely, especially I think Aaron, which, surprising in a way, considering Negan kind of saved him last episode, but Aaron definitely, blames Negan for Eric's death, and he, has issues dropping it even, 6 years later, or even longer, I guess 7.5 years later, something like that.
It's 6.
No, it's a 6-year time jump, but there was a 1.5 time jump in between season 8 and 9. So
true.
7.5 years.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I definitely do think that it was an excuse. And I think that a lot of them are going to be happy that he's gone and are probably going to wonder if he's going to retaliate in some way, but how could he? I mean, he's one person and he doesn't have the saviors to back him up anymore. He's not. He's going after the Whisperers. I think if he really cares about them, and this is something that I think Daryl set up last week. He said something to, or maybe it was this episode. Maybe it was this episode. There was that one scene with Daryl and Negan where he says something like, if you really cared about him, you'd just go or something. So that's the question is going to be like, who let him out? It could have been Daryl. It could have been, it obviously wasn't Lydia, but I could see Daryl doing it. I could see Aaron doing it. So I guess we'll find out sooner or later who did it. But do you have any thoughts on who did it?
I have 2 theories and one major theory.
Do you want to hold off talking about that right now?
Yeah, definitely till the end. Actually, they brought that on Walking Dead cast too. Lucy and Jason were talking about it, and she had an idea that was like mine. But I also had another, and then after seeing the preview for next week, I think I have another one.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, thank you, Steve. And we've got another voicemail this time. And I think it's her first voicemail on our podcast, but she's certainly a friend of the show. And you have met her in person at least once, maybe twice. Megan?
Oh, Megan.
Yes. Megan, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I saw her interview Cudlitz.
There you go. Yeah, of course. There you go. Yeah, that's right. She did panels at, what was it?
New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, you've met her a few times.
Yeah, a bunch
So
of times.
Anyway, Megan.
Hi guys, it's Megan Dively-Lehman with some thoughts on the last few episodes of The Walking Dead. Overall, I'm really enjoying this season, and I think we are still in the Kangazance and hope it continues indefinitely. So first of all, I was going to call in for last week's episode with a few thoughts, and one of them was that I thought the reason Alpha has been showing restraint and not simply wiping out the communities is that she knows Lydia is there, and she's in a way kind of grateful that someone's taking care of her daughter. And I promise I really was going to say that. I thought that was kind of funny that Daryl explained that. It's almost like sometimes you think on the show there are like fan questions and then they realize, oh crap, we didn't explain that very well, so we have to have someone spell it out. This was one of those times. When the group attacked Lydia, their goal wasn't really clear. If they had wanted to kill her, wouldn't they have just gone out and killed her immediately instead of messing with her like that? And I kind of wondered if those boys were going to rape her. It was really frightening for a few minutes. And I've never been more glad that Negan's a bloodthirsty asshole than I was in that particular scene. And I'm not really sad the woman died. I don't know what they're going to do with those other teenagers because they're awful people and probably they should be in jail instead of Lydia. But, justice doesn't always work out in cases like this. Now on to Negan's disappearance. I'm curious to know who really let him out. I don't have a good guess at that right now. And I'm surprised that he left because I think he maybe would have wanted to stick around knowing that he's kind of feeling protective of both Judith and Lydia now. And he knows there's nothing out there for him. But I'm thinking that he thought maybe by leaving it would draw some of the heat off of Lydia if everybody kind of thought, his running away was an admission of guilt and that, he was kind of the scapegoat. Now, on to something I thought that was really, really interesting. In episode 2 of this season, when Beta was obviously upset and irritated toward Gamma when she achieved her new role, he told her, "I feel nothing for you." And this past week, we had Alpha having a similarly surprised reaction when Carol said, "I look at you and I feel nothing at all." Both times they were obvious lies, but also had an obvious surprising impact on the recipients. So I'm not sure what the significance of that phrase is, but I feel like we're going to see that again. Now on to the Days of Our Lives portion of the episode. I have to say, if I were Michonne, I would have been very tempted by Ezekiel's kiss. Now, normally I don't recommend starting a new relationship 5 minutes after one of you has contemplated a suicide attempt. But he is a fine-looking and very good man. And they don't come along very often in the zombie apocalypse. And it looks like Ezekiel is the de facto leader of Hilltop now. So kind of that would be a super couple to continue, the bond between the communities. But I think, Michonne still thinks Rick is out there somehow. And we know that she's right. But within the knowledge that she has, it's very surprising that she would still hold a torch because, the Deus Ex Machina of the helicopter. She has no idea about that. So final note from last week's episode. I've had a poster on my door at work for the last year about giant hogweed because we've been asked to be aware of it when we're doing field work at our agency. The giant hogweed flower itself can be up to 2.5 feet across. The leaves can be up to 5 feet across, and the plants can be up to 14 feet tall when flowering. So this is a gigantic plant, like the size of a corn plant or larger. So I thought it was highly amusing that on The Walking Dead, they glued some little bits of flowers and Spanish moss to a walker. And that supposedly, as Negan said, was a hogweed plant growing out of the walker. Oh, wow. It's TV. So those are my random thoughts catching up to this episode. And I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. Bye.
Well, that was a great voicemail. And of course, it's your first voicemail to us, so thank you so much. But I have heard you leave very great voicemails with Jason and Karen and company on Walking Dead cast. So thank you so much, Megan. Hopefully you won't be a stranger. Even though Mark did a little bit to figure out who you were.
Took me a moment. I didn't get a chance to listen to voicemail.
Right. I know. He didn't know that it was you, but so don't blame him. I'm the one that listens to them and puts them in the soundboard. So don't blame him. Anyway, I like the use of Kang-essence, I think.
Kang-essence, yeah.
Yeah, Kang-essence. And yeah, I agree with you on Alpha and her goals and her also not. She could destroy them if she wanted to, but she won't because of Lydia.
Daughter.
So yeah. I did also think that it was unclear the goal, and I mentioned it earlier about the rape thing. I thought it was going to go there, and I'm very glad it didn't. Although we don't really know what they would have done if Negan hadn't interrupted, but I just that would have been awful. And I agree with you on the I feel nothing and its impact. It especially seems to have an impact on Alpha. So I think that you're probably right. It probably will play into it as we go. The tempting kiss. I think that maybe if it had come at a different time, maybe she would have had a different reaction. I don't know, but it did seem to come out of nowhere. I think it was kind of playing to the comic book because I know that it's not Carol that has a relationship with Ezekiel in the comic book. It's Michonne. So would you agree with that?
Yes, but Michonne in the comic book has been around and King E was one of them. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, in the comic book version of Michonne, and I'm not trying to make her look bad, but she's been around.
Well, yeah, I reacted incorrectly there originally. Yeah, I know that they had a relationship, Negan and Michonne. That's why, or sorry, not Negan, Ezekiel and Michonne.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Exactly.
That was bad.
That was a faux pas.
Are you kidding me?
As I swing my Negan bat around.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I did know about the two of them having a relationship. That's why I said like Ezekiel and Michonne had the relationship in the comic book. Carol had been long since dead in the comic book. So, and from everything I've heard was a much different character. And can you imagine if, because I know that there was a point where they had considered killing Carol off instead of killing T-Dog. And I'm just, can you imagine how the show would have evolved had T-Dog survived and not Carol?
That's something to be brought up at a con if Irony and Melissa were there at the same time, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, and it sounds like it might not happen now, but
we'll talk about that later.
Yes, we will. Rick, of course, the candle for Rick. I don't know. I think those two had a very special relationship, and I can go right back to the episode before they finally, hooked up. The No Way Out, the mid-season premiere of season 6, when Carl gets shot and how she reacted to Rick picking up Carl and making away, and it just not so much to Rick but to Rick and Carl, that bond that was there. It was pretty clear to me that Michonne was the soulmate that Rick had that was far beyond, I think, his relationship with Lori. Let's face it, Lori was a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a bit. She was a bitch. And I last thing I was going to say is I love the hogweed facts that you. I had no idea that they were like 14 feet and had like 5 foot leaves. So, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I agree with her with the Kangaskhan's. I agree with her about Alpha. The rape thing, yeah, well, that's a touchy subject. I don't like to go into.
Yeah.
I feel nothing impact. Yeah. That's something that's like kind of like a staple at this point between the Whisperers. So it makes you think of if Carol actually interacts with Alpha again, how that will be.
Yeah.
So
we haven't, reminds me of like the whole discussion of rape reminds me of 2 scenes that we've seen. One was in the claimer that tried to go down on Carl, which was so creepy and so disturbing.
Oh yeah.
And then the last, I guess, would be that one creepazoid in Grady Hospital that tried to go after Beth. Yeah. That I forget what the guy's name was. I think it started with a G or something.
Yeah, and then also the governor too with Maggie.
Oh yes. That wasn't quite
rapey,
there, although it was certainly
getting
creepy
to that point, and it was super creepy. Yeah,
it did go
disturbing.
that way, but certainly, I would say the most rape thing was in A. And anyway, I'm glad it didn't get to that point, but it certainly did kind of lean towards it. May have gotten there if it had progressed, if Negan hadn't shown up when he did.
Oh yeah, and mind you, all those listeners that are out there that don't read the comic, if that ultra violent kind of stuff really bothers you, do not read the comic, because there's a ton of it in there. And the Governor Michonne thing where they battle it out didn't go as what we saw on TV. So, as what the completely, it was disturbing just to read or look at, even in panels. So,
which thing?
When she gets his eye.
Oh,
that
okay.
Whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the comic, it turned out a bit different. It was a whole raping situation, and she got the upper hand on him. So
yeah. Got it. All right. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Megan, and don't be a stranger. All right, our next bit of feedback is from our friend in Detroit, Dieta. She says, Michonne and Ezekiel kissing on a bridge. What? What an interesting pair. I could see it, but too bad Michonne is leaving this season. That would be cruel to do that to King after all he has been through. Why was Magnus so mad at Yumiko for telling them to retreat? There was no way they could have taken out all the dead by themselves. But I'll stop right there and say I totally agree. I didn't understand that, and I mentioned that earlier. It seems it's like I say, sometimes her actions are very odd. Like, you know, I'm thinking of how she reacted in when I think it was like the second episode that we see them right after, you know, they are brought to Alexandria. You know, she's like, you know, like spying around and very threatening in the way that she's acting that time. And there's been little hints of that, and I don't understand that. So what do you think Magna did? Why did she need Yumiko as a lawyer?
I don't know.
and for that
she's
matter,
loose cannon. Honestly, if you look at her and all her actions, she's pretty much just a loose cannon. She has some good ideas at times, but yeah, she's just basically a loose cannon.
Which I got to bring up the fact that Yumiko, not from United States of America, and for that matter, it's not as obvious, but there is a bit of an accent with Magna for that matter. So were they like in Europe or the UK, or well, UK is kind of Europe, although it's with Brexit, you know, it is, but it isn't going to be part of the union anymore. But anyway, yeah. So was she her lawyer in UK? I mean, certainly it seems like Yumiko by her accent is British.
Yeah.
Although she obviously by her name and, you know, her look, she must be like, you know, like British parent with a Japanese parent, I'm guessing. So
who knows?
Yeah.
Like I said, there's the comic and the show are two different, so they changed the characters slightly in some respect.
Okay.
So, but they never even stated like, oh, she has a British accent or whatnot. Maybe she was British Canadian, came across the border, and her parents, you know, were mixed, and who knows?
Maybe.
You never know.
Most Canadians don't talk with a British accent.
I know, but there are some that come, you know, there are derivatives that come from England or Scotland to Canada.
Yeah.
And then,
well, and we know one. Hi, Lucy. Anyway, all right. Our next bit of feedback is from LT from NC. Mark, why don't you start it off?
Well, LT starts off saying, just for starters, you'd think someone would know the first rule about securing a base, which is clear out your fields of fire / cut back the undergrowth. I guess the tree on the wall is one of those travel at the speed of plot kind of things.
Yeah. And if it is inside, well, I guess it's like it was on the outside, but
halfway in, or most of it in, but like the you know, the stump of it all the way in the back outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that actually happened in the comic too. So that's why they had to repair at Hilltop. There was a lot of repairs that happened in Hilltop. So keep a lookout on that in future episodes.
Okay.
He continues on saying, Luke was getting a lot of screen time with the new mace, and he also got some extra chat time. Hopefully this isn't going to be a T-Dog syndrome lead-up.
Yes, the suddenly the moral compass or slash suddenly he gets a spotlight and then he's dead. And yeah, I actually had that in my notes. I said to myself, or did I already mention that? I guess I did.
Yeah, you did.
Ah, okay. It wasn't in my notes. It was in my sad sauce, I think. Yeah. So I agree with you.
Lydia and Negan. I like how Negan was trying to talk to her and take up for her, since if anyone gets being the outsider with a checkered past, it is him. The fight scene where he came out swinging was pretty intense, and props to Jeffrey D. Morgan for selling that scene so hard. The old Negan expression he had when he came out swinging, and the change of expression on his face after he saw what he'd done, was excellent. The question will be now, who let him out, and what will he do next? Big questions.
Yeah. And I do wonder, and I'm pretty sure we'll find out. But yeah, it could be someone you don't expect.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I'm going to lead up to that, though.
I'll just finish it off and say the scene with Ezekiel and Michonne was well acted and executed. The look on his face was heartbreaking, and it was so good to see two characters who have both suffered great losses getting a bonding moment. I would agree, and the scenes itself between them, I thought were good. It was the setup that I had a problem with. That's why I said it was awkward. It wasn't so much the scenes where they actually like interact. I thought those were good. It was how they got there that I thought was awkward. I promised myself I won't keep bringing up how much I'm glad it is main show season again, but yeah, I would agree. And yeah, and I only gave it 8.5 this time out. I mean, I think a lot of that had to do with that damn song. Because I couldn't get it out of my head. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Next.
Well, Glennis from Toronto says, nice subtle touch to refer to Ezekiel and Michonne maybe having a relationship in another universe. A shout out to the comics. And I wholly agree with you, Glennis. That's actually was in my notes. And I love the fact that they allude to that.
Yep.
And she continues on saying, surprised Aaron didn't call those three out when he saw them bullying Lydia and let it happen, since he maybe sort of agrees with them. Maybe if he had intervened, it wouldn't have gotten to the tragic extent it did. Not a good role model, Aaron is representing, since he is a member of the council. He's wearing a mask of intolerance now. Such a different sort than when he was first introduced in season 5 of welcoming people to Alexandria with open arms.
And we're saying, like just last week, Gabriel referred to Aaron as a saint, and he didn't seem so saintly this week.
Nope.
You know, I wonder if you're correct, Glennis, that he truly wishes that she wasn't there, but he doesn't say that. But I think that I wonder why he didn't say something. He seemed to be annoyed by it, and he tried to, redirect them, but he didn't say anything like, hey, stop that. Where I think somebody like Daryl would have called them out and reacted much more forcefully about stopping them. So, and I guess like there was a couple times when I think Daryl said something like, I'll talk to them or something. I guess he never did.
No. Or maybe Aaron could do what Rick did. Show them all how to fight with real zombies and let one of them get bit like he did in that one season.
Oh, yeah.
Get rid of
like
that
Carter?
guy real quick.
Yeah, Carter, Ethan Embry.
Yep.
Yeah, get his face bitten off.
Ripped off, yep. Well, she adds, now Aaron is all for killing Negan, ignoring the evidence that Negan was only protecting Lydia. And
Yeah.
I might add, Aaron also forgetting that Negan saved him. But,
Yep. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier too.
Yeah.
That he clearly hasn't forgiven Negan for his role in, killing Eric, which
Eric got killed
responsible
because of the war, basically.
Right.
It wasn't him directly, but yeah.
Yeah. Indirectly. And, and it's, worth saying Negan didn't start the war. But, I feel what he feels, but at the same time, it's not like Eric didn't die by Negan's bat. He wasn't eviscerated in front of everyone while playing pool either.
Yeah.
So I would say that, like I said last week, I think there is some evidence there that Aaron didn't do everything he could have to save Eric. He could have had him, go back home to Alexandria and not fight, but he didn't, and Eric got shot. And I think the worst part about it is that he never got to put him down either. So supposedly, Eric is still wandering. So, maybe we'll see Jordan Woods Robinson appear later in season 10 as a zombie, and maybe that's how finally Aaron will get his peace. I just thought of that, but now that I say that, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Yeah, but it would be how long later, though?
I know.
It'd be so...
Yeah.
Is he even recognizable at that point?
7.5 years later, took him 7.5 years to find him.
I found you. Let's hug. No.
Well, it happens.
All right, so she continues on saying, those three who attacked Lydia are no better than the Whisperers and those two guys, who are then trying to blame Lydia. They're also wearing masks as they lied to the council.
Yep.
It's all about masks.
Lots of masks. And I hated that episode of TNG. There's an episode of The Next Generation titled Mask, and it's a pretty bad episode. And to that, basically, just listening to you talk about this, I wonder, wouldn't it make sense if one of the guardians of Alpha's Whisperers is Eric, and Aaron finds him,
his face on somebody? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Well, it could. I didn't think about the face, but yeah, that would even be worse.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I was just thinking of it being one of the guardians, one of the people that, one of the zombies that is part of their herd.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the masks, that would even be worse. So
yeah,
I would have to say.
That's not true. That's impossible.
The Rise of Skywalker coming to a theater near you.
Yeah.
All right.
So she continues on saying, Michonne and Ezekiel were also talking on the wrecked bridge about emotional masks. They had each worn to face the outside world, which is true.
Right.
A lot of that, maybe they should have just made this episode and called it Masks instead of Whispers. Because there's more talk of masks.
Yeah.
Thinking about it now.
There was either a volume of the comic book or like one of the like
mini trades probably
was called Silence of Whispers, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you
that's
get them
probably
in short book formats. They're like 5 issues each.
Right. Yeah. So that's probably why they named it that way. Although I mean, Mark, do you remember any panels within the comic book where it said "Silence the Whispers"?
Yes.
As opposed to, so it did say "Silence the Whispers" and not
no, not the Whispers. It said the Whisperers, and it was basically within Alexandria in the comic and in Hilltop where people would just be blatantly, because they're afraid, so they were retaliating against the people who were part of the council, and they would just spray paint this all over. And there was a certain section amount of people that were doing it, and they confronted them, and it was almost a little bit of anarchy within Alexandria and in Hilltop regarding that, and they had to, stop them. And then eventually at that point, that's when the Whisperer War went into full effect, and then they all had to come together and obviously fight against the Whisperers. And I'm not going to give away anymore.
All right. She's got a couple more before I take over.
Yeah, the Lydia cutting open the squirrel on the table in front of those 3 bullies to try and put them in their place. It just reminded me of when Daryl killed and then cut up that possum on the porch when they just arrived at Alexandria. Savagery versus civilization.
I hadn't thought of that, Glynis, but yeah, I remember that.
Or what if he just showed up with ears around his neck? Doesn't everybody remember that one?
Yep.
And that was in front of his own group at Herschel's farm.
Yep.
She continues on saying, there's a need to silence the whisperers or whispers of incorrectly directed blame and mistrust, besides the actual silencing of the whisperers themselves.
Yeah, and Sadiq is the one that, brings that up, even in his PTSD, but, saying how they're, dropping the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that sentiment, Glynis. They are, indirectly or incorrectly directing it. Yeah, which, that's what happens a lot of times. It goes back into history.
Yeah.
People have to find a scapegoat, or they have to find
somebody to blame,
someone to blame, or someone to take out their anger on. So that's definitely what is happening here, and people still blame Negan for everything that he did, rightly so, because he did a lot of bad stuff. But I don't think that he's to blame right now. So,
nope.
Letting him go now, or, killing him now would not make any sense. Especially when it was an accidental death, and that reaction that he had, when he sees Margot there, it's like, oh, much like my reaction to it, like, what the hell just happened? Anyway, it was a freak accident, I think. But she continues. I'll just take it to the end here. She says, Judith may be right that the Whisperers are attempting to divide and or divert attention within the groups away from the main objective of getting rid of the Whisperers' threat. Yes, I think she's right about that. Judith is mature beyond her years with this chat about the Whisperers, and her comment to Michonne about helping out with a fresh set of eyes or a friendly pair of ears. The adults of this apocalypse could do well to heed her words of wisdom and reasoning. Michonne shows her trust and admiration by bringing her along to Oceanside. Michonne now has someone to sound things and stuff off of. Did Daryl or Gabriel perhaps let Negan out of jail, or is it going according to the plot of the comics? She asks. Whoever it was saved him from a possible mob lynching, or was he taken by the very mob in question? I don't think so. It really looks as if the groups at Hilltop and Alexandria have either been infiltrated by an undercover whisperer, since Oceanside has spotted whisperers lurking, or a new group is mimicking the whisperer's antics. And P.S. And was Yumiko supposed to just let Magna get herself killed fighting all those walkers? Really talk about manufacturing relationship tension out of nothing. Yeah, like I said, you know, you said about her being a loose cannon.
Yeah,
it was a weird reaction there, and certainly didn't seem to be like make any sense for her to act that way. Just like kind of like unpredictable behavior, I guess. All right. That's it for our feedback this week. But we do have some other notes.
Yep. Basically, I was looking at the trailer for the next episode when Negan meets another character. We see this in his travels. So if those of you who have not watched it, go watch it, come back, and then listen to this. Basically, Negan meets a character called Brandon. And Brandon was a big element of the comic with Negan.
Oh, okay.
So, honestly, it's weird because they bring him up now, but he was with the Saviors and he was with Negan throughout that whole thing with the war and everything else. I wonder if he was the one that busted Negan out in the end.
I think that's what we're going to end up finding out. You know, especially with him being in that, in like the sneak peek or whatever.
Yep. And he was a fanboy, apparently, when you look at the preview. But my original two thoughts were either Daryl or Carol.
Yeah. Well, yeah, either one. I hadn't thought about Carol, but Carol would also make sense.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll see. But we had seen Brandon before. I think it may have been a previous episode, but I think it was when Negan was talking to Lydia. Mm-hmm. He's kind of watching over Negan, kind of like a security guard, and that's kind of what I was saying about like him having guards surrounding him, and I think that Brandon was one of the guards.
Possibly.
But it sounds like he's more than a guard.
He's a obsessed fan.
Oh, what if he's like one of those fans that had the Polaroids?
Oh God!
And he's like a closet.
I went back to the satellite and I got your Polaroids. I love your work. Can you sign it?
Yeah. Well, you had to know I was going to bring up the song. And like I said, I found myself liking it more as I kind of listened to it, but it's a weird song. Like I mentioned it to Mark before we started recording. The artist she goes by the name of Gordy, and her real name is Sophie Payton. She's Australian, and her music is called folktronica. And I believe that's like a subgenre that she's not, the only one. There's several different. You can look up folktronica on Wikipedia and you'll see several different examples of that genre of music. But it's folky, but a lot of electronic effects. And the weird thing about that is when I heard it, especially the first couple of times, I thought it was a male that was singing, and it turns out it is a female. Like that, even the whole part about the 1, 2, 3, that is her singing or whispering that, I guess you could say. And I was really surprised about that. She does have kind of a deep voice, I think, not or semi deep, but it's really sounded male. And then I could hear it again, especially when I listened to it off the show. That like her regular voice is in there, but I think she's like layering her voice on top of a very auto-tuned, electronic, modified voice that is made to sound more male. So it's this weird song that I said to you, Mark, that I think that song could like be done by Coldplay or like that kind of, band or artist.
Yeah.
But more straight laced, like not all that like, cause I sent you a link to a version of the video or the version of the song where she sings it live. And it's even more like, electronically changed in that video. And I wonder like why, like what, because you may not hear it, but especially you'll hear it if you watch the episode with headphones on. There's this like little very slight voice that you'll hear where it's kind of like sped up. It almost sounds like 300 speed or something, like, but it's very low. You hear it going on while the 1, 2, 3 is going on. But anyway, the it's called Heaven I Know. I don't think I said that. And it has some appropriate lyrics that I don't have handy. I don't know if you do, Mark.
No, I don't.
But it talks about how you're kind of getting jerked around and you're tired. That's kind of the impression that I got out of it. Not even paraphrase, but that's essentially the gist of it.
Yeah.
So, like I say, weird song in the way that it's played, but I think I could see someone covering it and it actually become a hit. When I looked at it on YouTube, I mean, she's an artist that, there's only like 100 and some odd thousand views of the song, which, compared to some of the songs that you see on YouTube have been played billions of times. It's not that much. So, and I mentioned Gage was an awful teenager from Hilltop, not one of the Highwaymen. I didn't realize that until later on, like maybe my third watch. I finally clued in that was that awful kid. Judith calls the Whisperers the Skins. She didn't call them the Whisperers. She just called them the Skins. Did you notice that?
Yes.
There's a theory that I don't think that we've mentioned on here. I know I haven't. But I have heard some fans speculate that Sadiq is maybe the one that cut off their heads. Like she made him do it.
Yeah.
Certainly Sadiq is really messed up over this. And that's why I think that might be right. That theory originally I thought was kind of way out there, but the longer we see, and we kind of see like little flashes of, like, I thought I saw Caitlin Nacon in the like distorted flashback thing. Yeah. And some of the other actors that were killed. I imagine we'll probably see them, in a flashback at some point. But yeah, I have to think that Sadiq either had to do something or was too close to what happened. So I really hope that didn't happen, that he didn't have to kill anyone, because that would mess him up. And for that matter, if that did happen, I think he would be messed up beyond like
repair.
So, but he's a doctor, and we have what's his name now, Dante.
I don't think he's a good psychologist, Dante.
No, but yeah, that's true. Yeah, Greek Adonis.
And his theories that Dante is a whisperer spy, so I don't know.
And it seems like the Hilltop has a doctor, or at least a medic, with Alex.
Yes.
Which I never heard of before until this week. So
yeah, me neither.
Yeah. I thought it was odd, Lydia talking about her dad smelling like garlic and onions.
She had a memory.
Yep. And Gage and Alfred are bad liars. We see that when Gabriel kind of checks with him. And last thing I'll say is I thought Eugene was going to end up going back to Oceanside, and sneak some chance to survey the satellite, knowing that that's in, Whisperer territory. But maybe they moved all the remains back to Oceanside since that was close, and he'd find the antenna or whatever he's going to find. So I was surprised that he didn't go with them. All right. So that is it for our feedback and notes for this episode. So let's move on to news, ratings, and info. We actually, this week, have something for all three.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
Well, first of all, when it comes to ratings, unfortunately, I have to say this trend is not good. We are getting dangerously close to the 1.00000 in the 18 to 49. It got a 1.12 in the 18 to 49 demographic with 3.305 million viewers, which is in both cases the all-time low. This is down from last week's 1.19 and 3.479 million viewers, which the 479 wasn't the lowest ever. That was the previous episode, but that was in the 18 to 49 the lowest ever previous. So this is not a good trend, and you can see the trend if you go to the posting that I do on the Facebook group of the ratings. I make these charts. I've been doing them actually since season 5 because, I'm kind of obsessed when it comes to ratings. And that's what is so hard for me to cover Star Trek, because there are no ratings in Star Trek. Cannot rate a show that's on CBS All Access because
eventually they're going to put that out. You know that.
Oh, I know. And they're already doing that actually in the UK. It's going to be season 1 is going to be on next season in the UK on terrestrial TV.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I figure that's going to happen with though it'll go on CBS this coming season, or once the merger happens, maybe it'll go on the Paramount network or whatever. Anyway, Talking Dead was actually slightly up this week. It got a 0.38 in the 18 to 49 with 1.253 million viewers. That is slightly up from 0.35 and 1.244 million viewers. Some info on this episode. Well, one's a news item, I guess. Not really but I guess it's related. They both things that I pulled and a lot of times I've got to say it's worth checking out on YouTube and or on the AMC app. Talking Dead, which is a web-only segment of Talking Dead that they shoot after the main show record is done. And it's usually, like 4 or 5 minutes. It's just, shorter one. But they often ask some like more pointed questions. It's not all entertainment, although there's like a lot of times there's some funny stuff on there. But Hardwick asked Michael Cudlitz why they didn't show the tree falling in the cold open. And Cudlitz said that it was a combination of time and money, but it was mostly because of time, since they shoot those, each episode in 8 days. It turned out that it was his decision. He thought that there was no good reason to shoot it, and it was a lot safer not to shoot it. He thought that the expressions on their faces and the sound of it falling were just as effective as what they had planned, because they were only going to show the last 4 feet of the tree falling. It wouldn't have shown the whole thing falling. Not like, say, the steeple falling in, the church in Alexandria. And it made me think of how in the show, like a previous season, they may have shown that, but I imagine that the budgets are cut some because, the show's not getting the ratings that it used to. And that probably means that the commercials, that spots are not, bringing in the revenue that they did. It's still, by far AMC's top show, and it's still, one of the number one, cable shows. It's definitely like in scripted, it's still up there, but it's not getting the kind of ratings that it used to. Let's face it. It's like, season 5, they were getting, 13, 14 million every week, 17 million on the season premiere. And now it's getting 3.5. So it's down a lot. And this is how TV is in general, but
yeah.
Cassidy McClincy was also talking about how much she's learned about acting from just studying your fellow cast members, working with them, of course, and watching them work. She said it's stuff you can't teach. You learn it from experience. So I thought that was a good thing. And something we talked about, like she's kind of shot out of the cannon, like when you see her at Walker Stalker and that. You've told me about that. And we can hear that on this.
Hello, my name is Cassidy McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through.
Yeah. Anyway, she was a little more of that in Talking Dead.
That was holding back.
Yeah. So
trust me.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, she was a little more wired on Talking Dead than she was on the regular Talking Dead, but she was good on there. I thought it was good. All right, so you had a news item that you wanted to bring up.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of you know that I went to Walker Stalker. What was it, last weekend? No, the weekend previous. But things were not that great. Photo ops were pretty much not working for them. They were having issues. It was a new company, smaller downsize. There was the issues with Angel Theory that popped up on social media, and her being outspoken on Instagram, and the woman who plays Cooper Andrews' wife on the show. That would be Jerry.
Yeah. It's Nadine Marissa or something like that.
Yeah, she was actually at Walker Stalker. She wasn't signing, but she was there. But she was outspoken about that whole situation as well. Jeffrey D. Morgan and Kaylee Fleming being late because Jeff was sick with the flu, cancellation of panels, and just reorganization of panels. So there's been issues with Walker Stalker that people have been exploiting, and there are things that we've seen. And Kari Payton's been vocal about this before on Twitter, but in this case, he took to Twitter to state, we're going to cut the poop. And, and he stated flat out that he was not going, Cooper was not going to be there. Melissa McBride, who actually was not at Walker Stalker, but she was in Atlanta, and she did do Talking Dead that night with Ross.
Was she originally scheduled and then canceled?
Yes. Her face was up there months before, and then they took her down because I guess she must have said, take me off.
Which is, tragic in a way, because she was one of the very first people that had been on the Walker Stalker podcast. And I know she was definitely there, not just in the first Walker Stalker con, but I believe prior to the con, they had like a watch party or something, I think. And I believe she was there for that. So, her relationship with James Frazier of, FanFest / Walker Stalker con, went back to the beginning. So, for that relationship to be damaged the way that it seems to have been, it's kind of sad to see. But I hate to say, I missed this Walker Stalker con, and I am going to be very surprised if Walker Stalker Con makes it to 2020. It just seems like the whole con is imploding, and we didn't get to talk about it too much, at all, because it happened actually on the day after we recorded last week. And I should mention that we talked extensively about Walker Stalker Con. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you have an episode that we recorded last Wednesday night with Mark, Kyle, and we had Jason from Walking Dead cast there, Diana from Aim for the Head, Lizzie from Brains Gone Bad, our friend Kat, and then we also had Alex and LT. And LT were also on. Did I forget anybody?
Nope, that was all of us.
Yeah. So we I think we recorded about an hour and a half, and then we went on another 2 hours?
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah.
And that is available to you if you become a Patreon subscriber. And we're going to do more Patreon episodes, probably, maybe one a month or, something like that. We haven't talked about what our next episode's going to be, but we're definitely going to do something. But yeah, the main thing is we talk about it extensively on that Patreon episode. So
yeah, and with this information that was brought forth by Kari, he listed a bunch of names, including, like I stated, him, Cooper, Melissa. I think he stated Ross, Marquand. He definitely named Jeffrey D. Morgan, Norman Reedus. All the heavy hitters, the larger names were there. And the follow-up messages that followed from that tweet was Garrett Dillahunt, of all people, agreeing with him that he would not be there. And Josh McKell stated it. He goes, I'm with you. So everybody is there, like even Angel Theory. And, that's why you've not seen Kari Payton at any Walker Stalkers lately. He dismissed that a while ago, and he was supposed to be at Terrificon, but he never showed. But he's definitely going to be at New Jersey's East Coast Comic-Con in May, and I plan on going. I would just put in for my media pass, but I'm waiting on to see if that gets checked out or not.
Which con is this?
It's in Secaucus, New Jersey, and I believe it's May 15th. It might be the Meadowlands Center. And
that is what con?
It's called East Coast Comic Con.
Oh, okay.
And Kari is like the big figurehead right now, and they're pushing the whole idea of him, voicing Cyborg in Teen Titans, and obviously him being King Ezekiel.
Yeah. What he said Norman's not coming, Melissa's not coming, Denai's not coming, Cooper's not coming, confirming more, and he said, time to shut this down. And he mentioned he has in there, he says he has Norman's Twitter, Melissa McBride's Twitter, Denai Garcia's Twitter, and somebody I couldn't figure out who it was.
Might have been Cooper's. His
is that who?
Name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I know, like you said, Garrett Dillahunt and Josh Michael, who played
Jared.
Jared, that's right. Jared from Subway, as I used to call him.
He's actually a very nice guy.
Oh, I know. I've met him. With the one Walker Stalker that I got to go to in Orlando, I talked to him at the bar Saturday night. So talked to him for like, I don't know, a minute or two. Not too long, but told him, what a good job he did playing Jared. So that, it's unfortunate. It is. But I think that the con, grew too fast. They made some things that they shouldn't have done to bring the so it's unfortunate.
It's sad. It's unfortunate. A lot of it had to do with the decline in ratings. Obviously, people fell off the wagon of wanting to see the show every week, I think it really lost everything come season 7. Yeah, around that time when people started falling off. But you have people like us that love to watch the show still, and we find aspects about it, but a lot of people aren't showing up to the cons. And I recall a memory of me talking to one of the security guards at Monster Mania when the first season broke. And after the first 2 episodes broke, I was looking furiously online for a local con that would have these cast members.
Yeah.
And I found out that they were at Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, New Jersey that year. I think it was in March. And the show at that point was wrapping up for its season or whatever. But they were there for a big thing, and nobody was going to their tables. Andrew Lincoln was there, Melissa McBride.
Really?
Laurie Holden. Everybody told me it was a ghost town for those people for that particular con. And it wasn't until season 2 that it broke big, and people started going. And then James created this con, and I've been looking for a dedicated one. Found it finally, but it didn't get to me in New York, which was New York, New Jersey, until about 2015.
Right.
Or late 2014. And I've been going since. And now it's gotten to the point where a lot of people lost interest in the show. The con has switched and had different variations, or, literally the amount of people going to the con has changed within the past 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah. With the decline in ratings, I think that, ratings for the show they were lower, but they were still really high in season 7. And it was season 8, especially. I think the real decline started, I think, when Carl was killed. That's when it really started declining heavy. I mean, it had already started declining, but it really, like, the
major drop.
Even more. But like I say, I think that they expanded it, too much, and try to make it a big, regional con as opposed to
a local one just in Georgia.
I think they should have. I think they should have like just kept it to Atlanta. Build the demand for it. And just kept it as an annual. But it
you live and you
learn.
It
is what it is. Like I understood why it grew to what, like the demand for it was there. I mean, I know they went to Chicago, and I think they were in Boston the first year.
Yeah.
And
they branched out to London. There was talk of Australia. They did the cruise.
Right.
There was so many things, and you build up and you build up, and financially, if you can't keep up with the decline at certain points, then, and I feel bad for the people who worked there, who worked under James with the money being not there and being promised. But, I just hope that some sort of solution comes if they are able to regain whatever they can. But without the celebrities there, that's not going to bring anybody.
Yeah.
And I showed you pictures, Brian, of when I was there, of the crowds. And they were kind of, whereas before you were, packed and you could barely walk down an aisle where you had merch or even just to get to a celebrity, to a point where you could just literally take a skateboard and ride across and go to the live stage and then go right to your photo op.
Yeah. Yeah. So the con declined in attendance right along with the ratings of the show. And like I say, I mean, I'm sure that James, if he could do it all over again, he would have done it differently.
Yeah.
And, I realize that they're trying to, bring it back. And I know there's another guy that's supposedly running it, but I mean, it's going to be very difficult for them to recover from all of the bad, vibes. And like what was mentioned, the one thing we're talking about this negative stuff, but in the Patreon recording when we had, there was a lot of talk about all the good things that happened at the con. So it was one of those things where the things that went bad went really bad. And if you experienced them, they were, like catastrophically bad, but a lot of people enjoyed themselves at this past con, and you I think would include yourself with that.
Oh, definitely.
I
had a great time, and actually I spoke to somebody just before we got online to do this podcast, and she was there with her. There was a limited edition Audi that came out that she had Tony Moore sign, and she had been texting me because I took the picture of her with him by the car. And she was having a good time too. And myself, I had great times with my friends. Unfortunately, I didn't encounter that photo op issue that was there because I never bought the professional photo ops. I wound up using selfies. So me and my friends had a great time going from panel to panel and doing selfies together and sharing in. And we had a good time regardless. Even though there was this negativity online, but the fact that I saw the decrease in the amount of people and traffic on the floor, that was kind of depressing.
Yeah. And from what last year was your first Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember from last year, a lot of people were saying that the attendance was down quite a bit.
Yeah.
From, previous years. So
which shocks me because I thought that was wild and packed.
Yeah.
But then again, New York, New Jersey, you're packed. You're elbow to elbow. And this last one that was in New Jersey, which was regular Fan Fest, wasn't as much.
Yeah.
But
anyway, we wish them luck.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying, I'll probably never go to another like a Walker Stalker Con Atlanta at this point because there probably won't be one. or they're still scheduled to have one, but hopefully they can turn things around, but I don't know how they do it at this point. Anyway, I think that's it for this. Why don't you tell people how to contact us?
Sure. Well, we always love to encourage you people and kind folk to follow us on Twitter at Walking Dead GSM. And to submit your theories and feedback, most people post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, which would be facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadGSM. And we'd like to encourage you to use our new email address. That would be walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. Our new feedback form is at talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. And if you want, you could always give us a call. Steve did it. Megan did it. You could actually call us at 216-232-6146 and leave a voicemail and your thoughts and your theories about each episode. And we will play them just like you heard tonight. Deadline for next episode is set for our regular day and time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, Tuesday, November 5th. And you could always go to facebook.com/talkthroughmedia.
Yeah, and we are still having issues with Facebook. Unfortunately, that problem has not been resolved. And I kind of hinted at it to you before we started recording, although we kind of went off on a tangent. Fixing that problem is a little more difficult than I initially realized because we can't do what we did last time when we switched over networks by just like redirecting the feed, because we'd be redirecting our feed to ourselves. Even if we change the domain, you'd end up in the loop. So, because you can't redirect to, yeah. So that would kind of cause a problem. So we'll have to figure out how to deal with that. There might be a way, if we do change domains, but it's still a problem. So anyway, the best way you can support us is through our new Patreon. And we mentioned that earlier, but that if you want to climb aboard, patreon.com/Walking Dead Talkthrough. And we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, Steve Brown, Alex Baelish, Lawrence Todd, and our newest supporter, which we've never even heard from you before, Graham McCary. Graham, where you been, man? It's great to get your support, but I mean, we've never heard from you before. So hopefully now that you are a Patreon supporter, maybe we'll hear from you. But anyway, thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. Remember to share our posts on Facebook. Now, the other thing I should mention, we didn't mention, is that as of last week, we are now also posting our episodes on YouTube. So we never used to do that until last week. And there are a ton of episodes that we still yet to post on there. I've posted a few. But going forward, we will be posting all of our episodes on YouTube. We don't have like an easy channel URL because you have to get to a certain number of subscribers before you can get that. But if you search for Talk Through Media and find our channel that way, you will find that all of our episodes will be uploaded there. I will get to that. I have been, doing them as I have time, but I haven't had a lot of time with the new job and other new podcast as well. So we'll get to that though. We will upload everything going forward and upload our archives too. So remember to share our posts on Facebook and YouTube, as well as Twitter when we post them. And tell a friend. word of mouth is the best way to get us new listeners. We've also, I should say, we've also started getting a few new subscribers on our YouTube channel. So gotten some feedback already saying that they like our work on there. So subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. Should mention that there is a channel that you could subscribe to for Apple Podcasts, and you might find it on some other podcasts or other podcast clients for Fear the Walking Dead talk through. So if you just want the Fear episodes, they can now be on a separate feed. But if you get this, you will get all of them. But somebody like Aaron might want to switch over. If you are on a client that allows reviews or comments, send them our way. That will help us get noticed by other people. And like I say, especially with this Facebook snafu that we're still going through, we will continue to work on the website. I have kind of curtailed some of that just because of the issues with the Facebook that I'm still trying to deal with. And I don't have a lot of time right now. My wife, I mentioned, just had surgery a couple weeks ago, and she's kind of at home. And I just started a new job last week, so and Star Trek is back, so I am busy right now. Speaking of that, I mentioned last week that the very first episode of this Star Trek Picard cast has been released, and I mentioned that there is a separate, that will be on a separate feed from the Star Trek Discovery podcast. That new feed is now out on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and it should be available on whatever podcast client of your choice. I've seen still some of them not finding it yet, but hopefully in the next, couple of weeks, those will also pick up the podcast. But go to StarTrekPicard.com. Yes, I own that domain. But we are also releasing we have an episode that should be out, hopefully, if not out by the time that you get this, maybe within the next couple of days. We recorded for the first short trek. There are 2 short treks that have come out, and we recorded an episode for the first one, Q&A. We would have recorded the second one, but that was caught in the Facebook snafu, and we lost almost all of our feedback. So we have to collect that feedback again. And I figured I wouldn't try to start collecting it until I got this episode out. We also talk about in that episode that's coming out, episode 44, the Discovery trailer. So hopefully it'll be out in a few days. We also have a Patreon for those 2 podcasts at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. Mark, exciting things going on for Panels of Pixels. I know it.
Yeah. Definitely look forward to a double episode this Sunday. So Sunday,
okay.
We already started our Watchmen review for HBO. So the first episode of that is out. You could listen this weekend or this Sunday. Lara and I did a Crow 25th anniversary review of the movie, and we're going to add our second episode to the Watchmen. So you'll have a little extra longer episode of Panels to Pixels if you go to panelstopixels.com or go to Next Level Radio Network and you can get it there as well.
All right. Next episode, season 10, episode 5, titled What It Always Is. And I don't know where you got the written and directed by, because I didn't find those. Were they on Wikipedia or is that something else?
Yeah, Wikipedia.
I didn't look there. I should have. written by Eli Journay. And I know it's Journay because I saw the accent aigu on his E. And directed by Laura Belsey. And I think I've seen that name before. So either she's directed Fear or she's directed this show, but I believe I've seen her name before. The description is supplies go missing from Hilltop. Negan is idolized by an Alexandrian. Ezekiel holds a secret. All three of those things deserve that. Although the second one deserves a little bit. All right, so until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Mark.
And this is the Walking Dead Talk Through. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.